Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Online Summit. This is Gertrude Matta here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. How are you, wherever you are in the world? Welcome to my panel. Miss Ruth, how are you this morning?
I am well. Thank you for having us here again. Everyone, welcome. I am in Harare in Zimbabwe.
Fantastic. Miss Renee, introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you are.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Renee. I hail from the outside the great city of Chicago, Illinois, in the United States, and I'm excited to be here today.
Wonderful to have you here, Renee.
Thank you.
Wow,
Always.
so what day is it today, Ruth? You always have to keep me on track because I get the days wrong.
We are now on day
Day
nine.
day
Is it?
9.
No,
No,
no, no. That's West. 5, 6, 7, 8. Day 4.
day 4 of our 11-day
Day 4.
event. And
Yes.
we start off the day with an amazing musician by the name of Miss Friday. Miss Friday is a 2-time Blues Music Association Awards nominee. She's based in Pittsburgh, USA, and she is a frontline nurse who is also a cancer survivor, the mother of an autistic son, and has charitable works in many, many places. She released a new single dedicated to her family and released on the anniversary of her mother's death. And it's called Something to Believe. So we might just share that release. For the past 25 years, she has been singing the blues throughout Western Pennsylvania, and her hometown, as I said, is Pittsburgh. From bar rooms and nightclubs to charity events, the American Legions, and she is often recognized as the town's leading lady of the blues. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. Although you can't be with us in person, we will start off with sharing your video, and then we will have a panel discussion and give you some feedback, our intakes. But thank you so much for being with us on this virtual platform today. So here we go.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel very honored to be here. And it's just, it's a humbling experience. I love it. I am Miss Freddie. That is what I'm known by my musical stage name. But you can call me Freddie. I'm Freddie Stover. I'm out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm a mom of 2 wonderful boys. And I'm a nurse, surgical oncology. That's what I do. That's my trade, 34 years of nursing. And I'm a musician. I'm the singer of 2 of my own bands for 25 years. And I am a proud 63-year-old going to be 64 next month.
Wonderful. It's great to celebrate life, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me, where does your story begin?
My story begins, it's so many avenues, branches of it. But my story as a musician started when I was a child. I'd go to church, and I love going to church, not only to hear the message, but also to listen to the choir sing. And as I became older, I started singing the choir. And then fast forward, I started singing my first blues band, and I loved it. My mother listened to blues. Both my parents were from the South. And my mother listened to blues, my mother and my father listened to country. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand neither one of them. But I grew up to appreciate it. And then after that, you know, being the mother of a single child, because it was just me and my oldest, I had to figure out something. One day I woke up at 25 years old and I said, I got to get myself together. I can't party for the rest of my life. You know, it's me and my son. And so I went to nursing school, became a nurse. And then the music followed. And then I had another child. And so, you know, it's brought about a lot. It's an awakening for me because of what I do in life. I'm a breast cancer survivor twice. And I tell people, you don't know how people feel who've been diagnosed with cancer until you have it yourself. God forbid you get it. But my first time when I was diagnosed, I cried for 24 hours straight, like no sleep. I couldn't stop crying. The second time I told the surgeon who did the first surgery, I said, it's back. It's in the other breast. I've already requested off the following week. And he's like, no, let's biopsy. It came back 3 days. When do you want to have the surgery? Next Wednesday. And so that's what happened. I almost died the second time because of infections and all that. And so I can actually relate to people. And so I volunteer every year, except for last year because of COVID and the restrictions. But I volunteer to, you know, sing to raise awareness, and for the Breast Cancer Foundation here in Pennsylvania. It's a national foundation. And for autism, my youngest is autistic. That was a challenge for me. But I've learned to embrace it because now I have an awareness and understanding of it. So I volunteer my time, and it's gotten me now that I'm going to do something music in ministry. And that's thanks to Pastor Greg Spencer. His church is in Brackenridge, Pennsylvania. It's probably maybe like 45 minutes from me. And he's been asking me for the last several months, well, Miss Freddie, where do you see yourself going in the ministry? And, you know, like God throws bricks at me. Thank you very much. Not real ones, but he throws them where it's like, okay, you know, that commercial, there's a commercial. I never see it. You know, they hit herself up the head. Oh, I wish I had a V8. Okay. I wish I had like some kind of, you know, biblical sense. Well, I've been getting it all this time. And people have been asking me, when are you going to sing gospel now? And so now I've been incorporating gospel into my music. So that's where I'm at. That's what's going on. That's where, you know, how it started. But I think this is just the beginning of a beginning.
What a journey. You know, it's something that happens when you have a brush with death.
Yeah.
I went through a separation, divorce, ended up collapsing in a rice field in Indonesia with congestive heart failure. And I remember coming out of that, you know, my health is still not perfect, but it gave me a new lease to life in a very strange way. I wake up every morning, and when I breathe, I'm just so grateful that I'm here. And you're talking about your ministry. For me, my work is in empowering other women. I've been doing this for the last 21 years since I left Africa and moved to New Zealand. And I think, like you, it's when we tap into that God-given gift. Yes. You know, you sing. I've been cyber stalking you. I've been watching all of your videos on YouTube since I heard that I was going to interview you. And I admire it because I can't sing. But I think I do something different in that I use my voice to tell stories. So sure. I, in a small way, can entertain just with the power of storytelling. But man, yes. Your voice is amazing. And I am so glad that you're tapping into this new path that you're going to go down. You're going to
thank you. And I get that a lot from a lot of people. There's a story that I tell, and I tell people, out of all that I've done besides giving birth to my children, the third best story that I can tell people how music, that I know I'm supposed to do this. Yes. I was singing in a venue with my blues band some years back. And this young woman comes in with a nursing uniform, all white. She stays a whole night, has the same drink. She comes up to me when I'm done. Oh, you sounded great. I love what you did. I said, I'm like, oh, where do you work at? We're swapping words, nurses now.
Yes.
And I said, oh, I'm glad you stopped in. She said, you know what she said? And this blew my mind. I felt that I probably had died, came back to life. Somebody's doing CPR on me. This is how I felt. She told me she had stopped into that venue long enough to get a drink, to go home, and she was going to kill her husband because she found out he was cheating on her. Well, I didn't know what to say for a few minutes. And I said, she had a young baby. And I said, well, what's the baby going to do when you're not here and he's not here? You're in jail, he's dead. And she looked at me. I said, it's just not about you and your husband. It's about the baby. Yeah. I said, I may be wrong about this, but you're talking to somebody who came out of a domestic relationship some years prior to that, domestic violent relationship. And I said, you can always get a man. I said, my mother used to tell me that. And I used to think she knows she's talking about, but she knew. Yes. I said, but that baby is precious. And I said, even though the baby may not realize what's been going on, somebody's going to tell that baby a story. Yes. And that baby may regret both of you for your transgressions. Mm-hmm. So she went home, and I'm telling you, Gertrude, for weeks, I watched the news. I'm like, oh, please, God, I prayed, please don't let her. Because that means I'm going to have to go to court and, months later, same venue, she comes in, she stays, till our show's over, comes up to me, thanks me. And she says, that night I went home and told my husband, I knew you're cheating. I'm taking the baby. I'm leaving. She said her husband did not contest. He did not fight. He knew it was wrong. Fast forward a couple years later, maybe 3 or 4 years later, same woman, I'm out an outdoor venue doing a family friendly show. She comes up. I said, oh, I wonder if this is the husband that, they must have patched things up. Nope. She divorced that one. She met somebody else, nice guy. They had a couple kids. The end.
Oh, how beautiful.
Last time I saw her was a couple years ago, and she's happy as ever.
That is just incredible.
Yes.
That's the thing that happens, right? When you are gifted with the source of inspiration, it's just a moment in time where somebody hears you. I was invited to speak at a conference up on the North Island. A lot of farmers were committing suicide because of the drought. And the mayor of this small town says to me, Gertrude, please come to Hamilton. I need you to speak to my farmers. I'm like, I'm not a psychologist. What am I going to say? Yeah. And he said to me, Gertrude, when I heard your story, I felt as if you were holding up a mirror to my life. And for the first time, I realized how lucky I was to live in New Zealand, where my children would never starve to death. He said, just come and share your story the same way you did it before. So he got a theater that seats 1,000 people. New Zealand is small, right? This is a tiny rural town. I'm thinking, who's going to show up? It was winter. I called him a week before. He said, we've sold out on tickets. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
To this theater, I get up and I tell my story. And I had printed copies of my book for free. And I just said to everybody, it cost me $3 to print this book. My girlfriends were at the door holding baskets. If you've got any loose change, just help me recover the cost of my printing costs. So everybody got a book. I made $10,000 that night.
Wow.
People came and gave towards my foundation that I support in Zimbabwe. And there was one farmer who waited until everybody left. And he said to me, Gertrude, I was on a cliff, about to drive my car over a cliff. When the email from the mayor's office popped into my mailbox, I was writing an apology letter to my wife for what I was going to do. He said, you saved my life. He signed a check for $1,000. He didn't have the money. He said, just hold on to this check. When I am back on my feet, I will call you. 18 months later, he called me and said, Gertrude, go and cash the check. So it happens, right? When we inspire and we share and we use what God has given us, our voices. And that's what the HerStory platform is all about. Thank you for sharing that story.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I'm, I don't give a second thought. It's kind of interesting you say that, because I'm telling you, I don't know if I have the face before the pandemic, because, when we have the mask on, you can't see anything. But I'm telling you, strangers, I mean, you've heard me sing, but you don't know anything about me. People will they still do it, will come up and start bearing their souls, their heart, their troubles. And I look at them and, in my head, and I know they see the look. I try to hide my face. You sure you want to be telling me that? You don't know if I'm the government. You don't know who I am. And then it dawned on me. I said, it's not for me to question. I am supposed to listen to them because apparently the music has drawn them to me. And so now they need to talk and see. And 90% of my job as a nurse, now that I've got the dream job, Monday through Friday, no holidays, no weekends, no on call, I'm on the phone 90% of the time with people, Gertrude, and I'm telling you, I have to be careful with my emotions over the phone. If I don't feel good, if I'm depressed, tired, I cannot do that. Every day I pray. For 2.5 years, that job, I said, Lord, please give me the strength to do my job and do it well because you gave me that job, nobody else. How I got that job, I've never gotten a job. I applied one day, the next day I had an interview, the third day I was hired. Oh. What nursing job is like that? Here, at least here in the United States.
That is great. Well, listen, I want us to end this interview in a very unusual way. You're the first creative woman I've had on the show. Can you serenade us with a little song before we go?
I can. And how about my new single that came out a couple of weeks ago that I dedicated to my siblings because we had lost our mother April 24th. So, and I actually dedicated to everyone around the world, and it's called Something to Believe in. Oh, so you ready?
Yes.
Ready? Everybody's searching for answers. Everybody tries to find some meaning in their lives. Where do we belong? Who will be our shelter? Looking for salvation, a haven in the storm. We all need something to believe in. We all need a light to see us through. We all need something to believe in. I found something to believe in a you. I could go on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for serenading us and gracing us with your presence today. I can't wait to finally meet you in person when you come to New Zealand because I know you're coming.
Oh, absolutely. And between me and you and everybody else, ever since I was a kid, I've been fascinated with New Zealand. And I said, when I get older and hopefully before I die, I want to visit New Zealand. And that's just so strange that when I thought of it, I said, wait a minute, hold on. I think God's trying to tell me something. Really? I get a trip to New Zealand if I win? Absolutely. I'm there.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The HerStory movement is about uplifting women through the power of our stories and the power of our voices. One woman at a time, one story at a time. And Miss Freddie, thank you so much. It's been an absolute.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you so much. I'm very honored. Thank you again. I do appreciate you and all you do.
No, it's gone.
Wow. What an amazing woman.
That was wonderful. I enjoyed it.
She is a gem, an absolute gem. Pumela, welcome to the panel. Lovely to see you here this morning.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. So we'll just give Miss Freddie some feedback. We'll go around the room, ladies. Ruth, I know you're there, and Renee. One of the things that fascinated me about her is just her tenacity and knowing really the impact that you can have on somebody else's life just by saying one thing, like the woman who was about to go and shoot her husband. It's
That's
amazing how we can intervene
yeah.
and change the trajectory of somebody's life. What was your take, Miss Mary?
Oh, that's such a beautiful story. When she was talking about how this woman was going to kill her husband, I was in the same situation back in the 70s. I had just had my baby, and then he was like a year old and found out my husband was cheating on me. I was so depressed, and I made up my mind I was going to kill myself that night. I took my baby over to my father's house, and I came home. I had the gun in my hand, and the phone rang. And something say, "Don't do it now. Just answer the phone." I go to the phone. It's my mother's sister, and I hadn't talked to her since my mother passed away. And she said, asked me how I was doing. She said, I haven't called you in such a long time, but you've been on my mind all week and very hard today, Mary." And I just started crying. I didn't
Oh,
tell her how close I was to suicide. She said, "I'm gonna pray for you." But when Miss Freddie was talking and she's talking about how these people come up to her, Miss Freddie, in all of us, we are gods. And a lot of people don't realize, yeah, how else are we going to see God? We see God in each other.
yeah.
So these people come to her for advice, and some people don't know how to get in touch with God. So we don't get the big head and say, "Well, I'm God, I'm this and that." Some preachers do. But she's delivering a message from God through her song. Gertrude delivering it through her voice. So all of us are gods. We just have to remember who we are. And when we look at each other, we're looking at God. I really
I
enjoy
love
it.
that.
I really
That
enjoy
is a
it.
beautiful reminder, Miss Mary.
It's
You
amazing.
sure are. Pumla, do you have any feedback for the last speaker? I know you're going to be the speaker who's coming up next.
I do actually. I absolutely loved her resilience and her energy, her joy in life. I just absolutely was thrilled to meet her virtually. It's really uplifting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today. Renee
It's a
and Ruth,
pleasure.
are you guys there? I know, Ruth, you can't switch on your video today.
I'm sorry. I'm here.
Your
Um,
feedback for Miss Freddie.
yes, ma'am. What I will have to say is, first let me just say to you, I really enjoy and I'm astounded by the women that you've connected to, and their stories. Every time you think there's somebody, somebody will listen to my story and say, "Oh my God, that's just so bad," but there's always somebody that's either worse off than me or been through something just as traumatic as me. Excuse me. However, it's how we each made a conscious decision, excuse me again, to keep pressing forward and to moving and to let our light shine and to help other people know that that they can make it just like we've made it. That's first and foremost. So about the young lady who just spoke, her I always have a soft spot, and I don't have anybody that I believe that's been connected to me that I could think of offhand. I have one associate, but just like actually going through the process with somebody who has had like breast cancer and survived, um, that speaks volumes. And the fact being that it reoccurred with her twice, and then she has a child who she's dealing with who has autism, and to just have that resilience and that strength. I mean, I was with someone. My mom passed away from pancreatic cancer, which is a totally different cancer, which is a quicker cancer, because by the time they usually detect it, it's generally too late. But just to know that what you're up against and actually like going through the chemo or the radiation, and then having to have surgery twice because um, they either didn't get it all out at one point in time, or for however cancer just appears, it appeared and it happened to go into the other breast this time. Her story is just so so profound. And I guess my thing is, I always think to myself, oh my God, how would I handle knowing that I had breast cancer? What would I do? And I think a lot of people say the same thing about when they hear my story, like, oh my God,
Um,
what would I do if I did that? And um, it's like
yeah.
it's always something to just see someone just stand flat footed and just know that um, believe that everything is going to be okay. And what I've learned in my 50 years of being, well, I won't say 50 years because I didn't learn anything to maybe 10, I'll say 40 years after 10 years of just living and being a kid. 40 years of being on this earth is that we have to make conscious decisions to do stuff. And the people that are around us are very important, even though people are in your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. Everybody plays a key component in what you do. And I think that we all feed off of everybody's energy, and we're able to pull different things from different people to help us be the people that we are and to be resilient as we are. A lot of people talk about how strong I am, but I have to go back and I look at all the people who've impacted my life over the years, male and female. And I've pulled different things from different people's stories to help. And I think that just watching her and just seeing what she's done with her life, and grateful that she has a support system that, motivates her to keep doing what she's doing. So it's amazing.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Renee. Miss Ruth. Ruth is technologically challenged today. Ruth, if you're there, unmute because you're going to introduce our next speaker. It's either she has dropped off. Okay, so we will move on with our program. Ms. Pumla, my apologies. I do not have your bio. Ruth has it, and she doesn't have electricity today, so I think she's dropped off the call. Would you like to introduce yourself? Just tell everybody where you're based. Looks like Ms. Pumla is also...
I am in Johannesburg in South Africa.
Oh, there you go. You're in South Africa, okay.
And I'm a founder and CEO.
Your sound is cutting in and out.
Am I breaking?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Okay, let me go back to my mobile instead of Wi-Fi. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on a sec.
All right. Yeah, connectivity in Africa can be challenging. I can see for sure Ruth has either... Ruth, are you there?
I am here.
You're going to introduce our next
Hi,
speaker.
I'm back.
You're back. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, so Ruth is back on as
yeah.
well. She'll do the introduction. We will move off stage and
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So our next speaker is Pumla Bolani. Oh my word. Pumla Bolani, who is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, all right. So now I wanted to see because I'm in two screens on my phone. Pumla Bolani is a natural health practitioner and founder of Abundance Natural Health, based in Johannesburg, South Africa. Through her practice, Pumla treats clients with a wide range of medical concerns using natural health modalities such as acupuncture, genital massage, lymph drainage, and the prescription of Chinese herbs. Often described by her clients as having magic hands, Pumla's passion for healing others naturally was a career transition she didn't expect after running a successful corporate recruitment company. Although based in Johannesburg, Pumla is able to conduct virtual consultations with clients all over the world who wish to order Chinese herbs to treat their medical concerns or illnesses. She says, what's important for me is that my clients understand that the work I do and the services I provide are primarily a tool to remind your body how to heal itself. Because the treatments are all natural, there are very minimal side effects, if any, after treatment, says Pumla. Pumla, welcome to our tribe, and thank you for joining us tonight. The stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction, Ruth. Yes, I founded Abundance Natural Health, and my main passion is acupuncture. So I'm an eternal student for acupuncture because it's such a vast and amazing and so deep a study in acupuncture, because the body is just phenomenal. But also our creator created us such that our bodies are able to heal themselves. So I'm in love with acupuncture, absolutely. And hand in hand with that is the Chinese herbs, which I prescribe, but I have to diagnose what is wrong first. So I would look at your tongue to be able to determine what is going wrong. So you take pictures when you are not in front of me, wherever you are in the world, and you send me pictures, and I'll give you directions of how to appropriately take those photos so that I see what I need to see. And then then I'll have a consultation and then agree on the herbs that I need to use, and I would inform you and then tell you how much it will be and then ship them to you. And then on the other hand, there are conditions that don't need Chinese herbs. Acupuncture on its own is fine. And also, even with acupuncture, there are conditions that need 1-2 sessions, especially with children, because they don't have a lot of emotional baggage that they carry in their organs, because organs are the reasons why we have conditions that we have. There is no condition that is not controlled or caused by a myriad of, a number of your organs. So the worse the condition is, the more organs are involved in making you sick, right? So children, when they're born, for instance, I would treat a child for one session for asthma, as an example. And yet an older person would require maybe 6 sessions. Because the longer you've had a condition and the more intense the condition is, obviously the more treatments you are going to need, because we are reversing the condition naturally. It's not magic. It's a natural way it works. Acupuncture and God, they don't discriminate. So it works. You just have to commit to that. And then with genital massage, a lot of women think that when they have menopause, they shouldn't be having sex. They think that their vaginas should be dry. They think that it's normal not to have any feelings or to have sadness or, whatever the symptoms are of their menopause, or even when people are young, actually, they don't enjoy sex as they should. But the body is able to reverse that condition because you are eliminating toxins in the body. Toxins create all kinds of problems in our bodies. It is important that we regularly cleanse our bodies and get rid of toxins in many different ways. For instance, in Asia, they have very few dread diseases because they do body work every week. When a child, especially girls, when they are 14, they start treating them, giving them massages once a month. Once they're 18, it's like twice a month. Once they're in their 20s, it then becomes a weekly thing. Because the thinking is that stress creates toxins in your body. The food we eat is not as clean as food used to be. The air we breathe is not as clean as air used to be clean. Therefore, we need to do body work to be able to get rid of toxins that in fact, even the relationships that we have, some of them are not healthy relationships. The work that we do with the employers or the colleagues, they may not be the best, for our mental health, for that matter. Therefore, being healthy is not about treating a condition or an ailment. It's about maintaining your well-being, your health. And therefore, it requires that you treat your body regularly. So I've treated a number of conditions. I've treated women for infertility using just needles, other people using needles and acupuncture. I'll make an example. I treated a lady who had had an ectopic pregnancy. So she had a very angry scar from her pubic bone to her navel. And the first thing that I did for the first couple of sessions was to treat the trauma in that scar, because the womb is crying, it's traumatized. And I promise you, that was the quickest person to get pregnant. After 9 sessions, she got pregnant. And she's a medical doctor, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with her. So there's a number of things that we are able to establish as to what is the problem. Sometimes a person will take, mostly it's 3 to 4 months, but sometimes it depends on your body, but also it depends on God, because at the end of the day, God is the one that provides for us whatever it is that we want. So one person will get pregnant after 9 weeks of treatment, coming every week. One person will take 12, one person will take 16 weeks. Your body, your organs actually determine how quickly your body is going to respond and give you what it is that you desire. And so when we do genital massage as well, it is to settle the emotions, because they get stuck in different organs. Like kidneys, they carry fear. Anger sits in the liver, resentment in the gallbladder, and being unable to let go. People who say, oh, I've always been constipated from the time I was born. I defecate like once a week or once in 10 days. That's unnatural, because that is an indication that your mother might have had trauma, emotional trauma, when she was pregnant with you, and you were not able to let go. So when you were born, you were not going to the toilet as regularly as you should, because the thing is, not defecating regularly, when you are constipated, you are sitting with toxins in your body, and that's not right, no matter how you look at it. Remember that the large intestine absorbs a lot of water. And when that water sits with toxins that are not leaving your body, what do you think happens? The large intestine is not steel, it's not concrete. So that water moves out through that membrane, back into the bloodstream, back into your body. It could go anywhere, including your brain, including your, anywhere, basically. We need to have clean colons if we want to be healthy. The other thing is stress. It causes people not to sleep. For you to be healthy, you need to sleep, because the body requires rest for it to recalibrate itself, to cleanse the toxins and give you energy. But for that energy to also happen or be given to your body, you also need to eat well. It's important that people eat food that is natural. It's not as complicated as it is. In other words, not highly processed, because the far removed it is from its natural state, you must know that it's not healthy, guaranteed. You need to be able to recognize that this chicken is chicken, right? And you need to say that maize, corn is corn. When it's too far removed, it's not good for you. So you want to eat food that the body is going to recognize and appreciate, and you want to eat it slowly, because when you eat fast, you're frustrating the body. It's the only time it gets to enjoy being in your body. It's the only time you get to show appreciation for these organs that do all the things that they do, that enable you to do the things that you must do to achieve whatever you need to achieve. You need to chew 33 times before you swallow. I know people think, what? I thought I was eating slowly. People think they eat slowly and they literally just put saliva on their food and swallow, literally, because they chew 4 times and then they swallow. You need to chew 33 times. Give the body time, rather your organs, give them time to enjoy and feel that they're appreciated. The digestive system, the spleen in particular, is going to extract nutrients from the food that you're eating. And remember that inside it's warm. Inside the body is warm. So the body would like food that is warm and moist and healthy. don't overcook your vegetables, and don't be used to drinking things that are extremely cold, especially when you're eating, because you can't put cold water on a fire when you're cooking, because the digestive system still has to cook this food when you have eaten properly inside, right? So when you drink something cold, you're killing the fire. Metabolism is really fire. That's what it is. Anyway, I've spoken enough about that. So the other things that I've treated, migraines I treat every day. HBP I treat, high blood pressure, that is, all the time. Diabetes, all the time. I mentioned fertility. There was a lady last year during COVID that I treated because she was like 5'2", needing a dialysis. Her kidneys had almost stopped working. She came 5 days a week for 6 to 7 weeks, and she didn't need to have the dialysis again. And her doctor was extremely surprised about that. So the body has an amazing, amazing capacity to heal itself. Remember that when we created, the world was there with everything that we needed in it. We're the last creation. So God wanted us to have everything that we need without needing things that are going to be damaging to our health. I love natural health, and the reason I wanted to focus on natural health is that side effects, if there are any, they are minimal. So people will say, but acupuncture is needles. I'm afraid of needles. Here's the thing. When people think of needles, they think about the injections. It's not. Far removed from that. The needles for acupuncture are as tiny or as thin as the strand of your hair. They are that tiny. You can literally bend them. You can't break it. It can break inside your body. You can bend it. Is it painful to insert? Not really. It's just a prick, maybe like a mosquito prick. Let's just assume you're sensitive and you think that it's painful. Here is the thing. Once the needle is in, you feel nothing. Many people sleep when they're having acupuncture because we say that the treatment is an hour. Yes, it is, because I check your organs and see what's going on, and then I do the treatment. But once I've put in the needles, I'm not required in your room. I leave you because the organs need to focus on healing you. So we have to leave you and let you rest so that the body can do what it needs to do. People have different responses to acupuncture. Some people will be energized because they've been quite tired for some time, but also some people have stressful lives and they feel tired after the treatment and they wonder like, but it's making me tired. That's what your body requires. Acupuncture reminds the body to heal itself. So whatever your body needs, it is going to make you, if you need to sleep, to rest, it will make you feel sleepy. If you were sleepy for some time with fatigue or whatever, with depression, it will give you energy. And sometimes if you have trauma that was trapped, because I do treat trauma as well with acupuncture, you will be crying. Once I've left you with the needles, sometimes people cry because the emotions are coming out, which is good, because when they are coming out, then you're ready to let go. Other times when I'm treating people with the massage, the genital massage, they remember that they were molested when they're 3 years old or whatever. And the thing about it is that you may not remember because the body knows and your brain knows that you are not ready to deal with that trauma. But once you start healing yourself, the body says, yes, you are ready. Here is another thing that you need to heal, because you can't heal it when it's hidden. So then you will all of a sudden remember something that you never even knew that it happened. So the benefit of healing yourself on a regular basis is amazing. And we are here, we are willing, we are passionate, we are always searching for information and knowledge, because the drive to make sure that people are as healthy as I don't get sick. I want people to be healthy as I am. I hope that gives you the information that you needed.
Fantastic. Thank you so much
It's
for
a
that
pleasure.
interesting presentation. I'm one of those people who has a fear of needles. So I'm glad to hear that it's not as
Yeah,
bad as it sounds.
yeah.
Just before we start asking you questions, do you have a website that we can display or an email so people can get hold of you?
Yes, I have I'm on Instagram, Abundance ZA. And I
Okay.
also have on my Facebook profile, personal profile, I also have Abundance ZA as a business page. I don't have a website.
Okay. So I
And
will.
I'm available on WhatsApp. The number is +27 66 210 9948. It's
Okay.
easier if people send me WhatsApp than call, because when I'm busy, I can't take calls.
Fantastic. All right. So we will display this at the bottom of the screen. If anybody wants to get hold of you, those are your contact details. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So my first question for you is, how did you get involved with Chinese medicine? For a woman in Africa, how did that come to being?
It's a very interesting thing. I'm a teacher by training, and then I worked in the corporate sector, and then it didn't work, and I decided, okay, I'm the common denominator here. I don't work well with bosses. Let me start my own business, and then I did recruitment, right? And I did
Yes.
well until the recession in 2008, 2009. And I was very bitter, because you do work, and when you are negotiating salaries, then they would freeze positions. And I thought, I'm not a bitter person. I'm basically a happy person. What else can I do, Lord? What else? But I'm angry, so I don't hear anything. And then eventually, once I had forgotten that I'm angry with God and I think it's unfair, a year later, it just dropped. You love natural health. So I started with Ayurveda, actually. So I went to the south of India and I studied Ayurveda. So I met a lot of people from different, wherever I went, actually, I was the only person from Africa. I'm not saying Africans don't go to these places to train. I'm simply saying at the schools that I went to, I was the only African.
Yes.
So then I learned about a teacher who teaches acupuncture in Goa. I'm a very curious person. I study everything, including face reading, which I studied for 3 years. I'm really that kind of a person. So I studied, that's how it went. So I then left Ayurveda because I thought acupuncture is just phenomenal. And I studied massages because I love massages myself. I also studied reflexology, but I thought, not my kind of tea. So I love having it done on me, but I don't like giving it to other people. So that's basically how I started. But my continuous education is literally Chinese herbs and acupuncture. They're just phenomenal for me. They treat like you cannot believe.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Thank you. Let's
it's
go
a
around the
pleasure.
room, ladies. Anybody want to contribute here? Miss Mary.
Okay. Yes, that's an interesting story. Pumla. I
Thank
enjoyed that.
you.
I've
Thank
had
you.
acupuncture before and I really enjoyed it. I did, but the second time around, the the man in the room next to me, oh, he snored like a lawnmower. It was horrible. So they gave me my money back. It was horrible. And the
Mm,
man had a good time, but my session was horrible. So
yeah.
he gave me my money back, and I booked another time when this man wasn't there. But it really works. It's a good thing.
It is. It
Mhm.
does. It does.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Miss
Thank
Mary.
you.
Hmm.
Renee.
You gave such valuable information when it comes to women's health and just things that we've dealt with or that we deal with, and the fact being that you're such an advocate and you help. So I just want to say thank you, first of all. I wish I
Thank
had
you.
met you in my 30s when I found out that I was fertile, I mean infertile, because I really wanted to have kids bad, but however, I was told I could not. And I think it happened for a couple reasons. I mean, in the end, it was a blessing and a curse that I didn't have children because I was married to my abuser. However, it still didn't stop the desire of me wanting to have kids. And Western medicine, to me, they really don't explain a lot of stuff. That you just go into an office and they tell you can't have kids, and they really don't necessarily go unless, of course, you keep pushing the issue and pushing the issue. You're traumatized like that. You don't necessarily have the correct mindset to push the envelope to figure out exactly, okay, so what are you going to do to help me? Or can you tell me exactly why I'm not fertile? Can you tell me exactly why I can't have children? And it's just now being revealed. I won't say revealed, talked about in the United States. And the only reason why it's really being talked about is because celebrities are actually dealing with infertility issues. Young celebrities are dealing with infertility issues. And because they have the money and the means to actually do more research, to look into it, to figure out why, whatever have you, have surrogacy, do IVF if they want to. Whereas because one IVF treatment over here is like, I want to say starting at like 10 grand and going up. And there's not a guarantee to that you'll actually produce a child with IVF. So if you take your life savings and stuff to put that was one of my biggest issues. They told me I could try with IVF, but my thing was if I throw all of my eggs into a barrel and they all crack, I lose money and I don't have a child. So a considerable amount of money, not just like if it was a couple thousand, hey, you can make that back probably, by sneezing in some aspects, with different things that you have that you could do around here. However, $10,000 for a lower middle class person is nothing to sneeze at. So I say, again, I wish I had met you like earlier in life so I could have known some things and maybe been more inquisitive about some things. But thank you for what you do and for the communication that you give and helping other African American women thrive in their life and live their best healthy life through fertility and infertility. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Renee. Miss Ruth.
Yes, Pumla, thank you so much for such a detailed presentation. There was just so much. I was like, oh my God, because you spoke about so many things. You spoke about, sorry, our body organs retaining trauma and stress over the years, and how if we've had a disease for a long time, it will take you more, or it will take the patient more sessions to do than for a little child. That was very interesting. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Ruth. Thank you so much, Pumla. Wonderful to have you as a part of our tribe now. Feel free to stay with us if you can. I know it's late in South Africa. If you have to go, we understand.
Yeah, please. I
Absolutely.
just want to say,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to meet these wonderful ladies. And yes, I will join whenever I have a chance. As I said, I'm always studying because I love acupuncture and herbs particularly. So whenever I have a chance, I commit to joining because I think this is such an amazing platform for women all over the world to connect and to learn about what it is that they do and how those things can benefit other women wherever they can be. It's really an amazing, amazing platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow,
Take care,
beautiful
ladies.
start to our day, ladies. So much knowledge, so much information, the things we need to learn about our bodies. Our next presenter is coming to us from the United States. She may or may not join us after we've played her video. I'm not sure how she's doing with timing. She's been sending me emails. She was at work, so I'm not sure. But Katrina Hayes is an award-winning autism advocate, speaker, and actress. Above all, she is a positive change ambassador with a vision to empower as many people as possible to be the voice of hope for the youth. ultimately leaving the world in a better state than when she entered it. As a dedicated community leader, she speaks to legislators about various community issues and serves as a coach for girls on the run. Formerly, she served as a guardian ad litem for abused and neglected children. Katrina even participated in public service announcements for Activate Good. During her free time, if she finds some, she enjoys a good belly laugh. Books, fitness are her second loves, but her loved ones will forever be her number ones. Katrina is the loving mother and a sister to two beautiful souls with autism who inspire her to be her best self every single day. So, Katrina, thank you so much for contributing your presentation. We'll share the video, and hopefully, by the time we're done, you're finished with work and you can join us. So, here we go.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for being here. I am self love coach Katrina Hayes. I help women see the light in themselves, and as a result, they become more confident, learn the power of their voices, and grow boldly in self love. Today, my topic is wellness, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. Usually you will hear the topic, then a story, and then the takeaways. But today I am going to tell you a story. I am then going to provide the title / topic. Then I'll give you some takeaways. So today I would like to share a story from a book. It is actually from my journal entry in 2020, the year that changed America, out at Amazon. And the piece is called Faith, Hope, Action. On March 17, 2017, I wrote to Kevin Powell. It went something like this. The subject was, "You can't take the girl out of Brooklyn." Hello there, Kevin. Thank you for evolving from a boy to a man and seeing the importance of supporting issues that affect sisters. A very smart man once told me, one of the true measures of a man is one who will genuinely serve the community. A few things about me. I was born in Brooklyn. I have been honored as a Girls Inc. of New York City Volunteer of the Year. I have done speeches on autism advocacy. I have earned a master's degree in medical biology. I have a fully stocked bookshelf. I know my rights. But despite all of this, I have still been treated like an outcast, ignored when I have asked for help, looked over as if Black lives don't matter to them, or sometimes to my own people. So what haven't I done? I haven't told my experience of illegal injustice to those it would benefit. In 2016, after my son was abused and deprived of an appropriate education, the school district set up a mock hearing. After they were notified of the abuse After they were notified of the abuse, the hearing was moved from a courthouse to a garage-sized community college courtroom. College room. The attendees thought I was coming alone. The attendees had 4 bailiffs in the room on the left side of me. Most of the evidence was purposely left out. The rest of the evidence wasn't even considered. I was threatened with being arrested for advocating for the rights of my son. No appeal rights were given that day, but I appealed anyway. On every level, evidence wasn't considered, a hearing was denied, and appeal rights were not provided, or in the case of the state level appeal, were insufficiently given. In the beginning, I felt diminished, but then I realized the pathology that went into these actions were only in the adversary's brain. Unlike Sandra Bland, I'm still alive. My adversary's greatest hope is for you to ignore this email. Tons of respect and appreciation, Katrina Hayes, but you can't take the Brooklyn out of the girl. So now that you have heard my story, I would like to share my title with you. And my title is, How Do You Outlast a Storm? Today, I would like to share 4 areas of concentration for you to focus on when you are going through a storm. Those 4 areas are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I'll start off with mental. When you are going through a storm, things are really cloudy. It's hard to find balance. We are in our heads a lot. And there are certain things we can do to get out of that mindset. And one of those things could be as simple as reading. Reading has a way of taking us out of our headspace. Reading also has a way of giving us insights. Reading has a way of getting us to explore new opportunities that we hadn't even thought about. There are 3 books that I recommend when you are going through a storm, and the first one is Living Successfully with Screwed Up People by Elizabeth Brown. The other one is How to Survive Change You Didn't Ask For by M.J. Ryan. And the next one is one I read recently and has just come out, and it's by Sarah Jakes Roberts, Woman Evolve. Some other things that you can do under the mental area is trying new things. When we are in a funk, it's hard to see on the other side, and we may become stuck in a routine. It may be a routine that is not even working. So I suggest trying something new, going to a new place, trying a new dish for dinner, something to break up that monotony. Things like taking a course could be something to get you out of that headspace of strife. The next area of focus is spiritual. Excuse me. And what I recommend for in the spiritual area is meditation. Meditation does so good with bringing us present, giving us clarity, giving us peace of mind so that we can tackle the things that we need to handle during our day. Deepak Chopra has a wonderful meditation out right now. He usually does it with Oprah. This time he is doing it with a singer called Alicia Keys, and I highly recommend it. It is about the divine feminine, and it is just check it out. It's 21 days, it's free, it's amazing. Other things you can do under the spiritual area is finding like-minded people to be around, finding a spiritual tribe. I am currently in Eckhart Tolle's School of Awakening, and there are times where we are in community with the other attendees, just learning about each other and getting to know one another, and it's a pretty awesome experience. It helps you to feel like you are in when you are pursuing something with like-minded people, you can never feel alone. And sometimes we tend to feel like we are the only people that are going through things when we're going through a storm. Also, for the spiritual area, I would say there's always something to be, and I put gratitude under spiritual, because gratitude is of a higher frequency. And so if you could find something to be grateful for, that'll help you get through your storm. The next area would be emotional. And with emotional, the tools that I recommend are journaling. Journaling is good to get our thoughts out of our head and onto paper. I recommend for my coaching clients to write, and when they write, you have the option of crumbling up and throwing it away, or writing what you need to write down and burning it. I let them know that it is advised that they not reread it, because they're getting that out of their system. And the last thing I want them to do is to put that back into their space. So journaling is really good for purging the mind and getting to some peace of mind. Also, affirmations work. Tell yourself things like, I can handle this. I am wise. I am love. I am light. Encourage. Sometimes you may need to encourage yourself when you're going through a storm to help you be able to see to the other side. And lastly, watch a funny movie. When you are in a challenging time in life, we tend to feel irritated, angry, and the last thing you may want to do is laugh. It may be the best thing you need, though, to get you out of your current situation. And so the last and final area that I recommend that you focus on is physical. And with physical, when we are in a challenging time in life, our bodies are tense. we tend to store, especially women, tend to store that energy in their bodies. And something as simple as a 30-minute walk, if you can, bonus points if you can get it done in nature. But just walking 30 minutes to get those endorphins flowing so that you are being proactive about feeling better. Things such as, you can find a dance routine. Um, Dance movements have a way of facilitating the healing process in women. There are many, many different dance workouts that can be found online. I highly recommend that. And lastly, in the physical realm, is to something as something as simple as drinking water. Water is a very pure, um, and it's one of the best things that you can give you feed your body. Um, in those challenging times in life, we tend to, the things that we usually provide our bodies, we don't, and water is one of those things. So, I hope this helps. These are ways that got me through my storm. Um, in the journal entry that I read earlier, these are the ways that helped me get to the other side of that storm. So, once again, I hope this helps. And if you would like to connect with me or vibe with me, I can be found at www.coachingwithkatrina.com. I am also Self Love Coach Katrina on Facebook. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Wow. That was the interesting Miss Katrina. I'm not sure if she is going to be able to join us for the Q&A session, but she certainly shared a lot of nuggets of wisdom, things that she has done for herself to try and keep herself going, advocating for her kids. Absolutely dynamic young woman. What was your take on Katrina's presentation, Miss Mary? You are muted. You're muted.
She had good information, but her cadence was too slow. I talk at a different pace, so I was one like she had something else to say, and I was ahead of her trying to finish her thoughts. But everybody has a different pace that they go at, and for me, I've been through a lot of storms, and for me, there's only two ways to go through a storm: you shelter in place or get the hell out of there. You get if storms coming, you can say, "Well, I'm gonna stay under this bridge." If you're not gonna stay on the bridge, well, you get in your car, and you can outrun a storm. So
That's
life
true.
is full of storms. So there's only two ways. You can say, "I'm gonna stay here until the situation gets better," or "No, I'm gonna leave this place and let it stay
Wow.
behind me." But she
Very,
did say
very
some
true.
things, and like I said, the cadence was I wanted to pick up faster, but I have to learn to slow my cadence down. That's what I
Yes.
have to do. So otherwise, it was good.
That's awesome. We're getting messages coming in from the UK. Andrea, thank you there. She said good morning, sending love. And I think, Danny, you are based in the Netherlands. Good morning. Wonderful to have you joining
Yes.
us on Facebook. Miss Selena, I'm wondering if you are there. I know that you are playing grandma today. Yes, there you are.
Hello, baby.
You have your grandbaby with you. Wonderful. This is what we do as women. We show up, whether we've got those babies on our hips or breastfeeding.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see you. I mean, just say quickly. I mean, I loved what she was talking about, though I heard just towards the end. But yeah, as Miss Mary says, I felt, like, okay, let's move. I would want, to be roused if I'm sick. Somebody said to me when I was nursing, I went there with joy and full of life. Then she says, I'm glad you came like that. If you had come like somebody who is crying, I was going to send you back. Oh, I mean, but it was good.
Yeah, everybody's got their pace.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to our next speaker, and she may or may not show up. Katrina had said she'll try and join us after lunch. If she does, we will do an interview with her then. So now we have Aishana Walsh, born in Sri Lanka and raised in Australia. She earned a law and economics degree and left a coveted position at a VC firm to find her own sexual wellness company at the age of 28. A biracial woman, she found herself in rooms not traditionally opened to people like her, speaking openly and passionately about a topic that most people consider taboo. Underrated and driven to create a company that creates positive change in the world, she created a market-leading product with over 300,000 users. She's also a great conversationist, a storyteller, and some of the topics that she talks about are lessons learned as an outsider in venture capital, how her multicultural, multinational background informs her leadership style and helps her see a market opportunity. She has also learned about building a business around sex and highly stigmatized topic. So thank you so much for contributing to our platform today. We will share your video and then we will come back for a fireside chat. And Kay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you on the call today. We're just going into our next video and then we'll come back and have a conversation around it. Wonderful to have you with us today. Aisha, here we go. Oops, what did I do?
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Ishana Walsh. I'm the founder and CEO of Coral, which is your trusted guide to a happier, healthier, intimate life. You might be wondering what that means. Essentially, sex and intimacy is a really foundational part of our health and happiness as humans, but it's not something that we're encouraged to work on the same way we do other aspects of our health and happiness. We just expect it to work. And actually, for most of us, it's not just working. The vast majority of people are not totally satisfied with their sex lives. And Coral is your way of really understanding how your body and mind works in relation to sex and intimacy, as well as providing evidence-based interventions for how you can actually improve your life. I'm 32, about to be 33 years old next week, actually. I'm half Sri Lankan, half Australian, born in Sri Lanka, raised in Australia, have spent the last years in the US building the business, founded that, well, getting into tech, and then founded the company about 3 years ago.
Wow. Wow. You've done a lot for someone so young.
Thank you.
What was the inspiration for you to create this digital opportunity tool to help people? It's very unusual what you've done. Was it your background? Were you always in tech? Are you a psychologist? What was the motivation that got you to start this business?
Yeah, so it's sort of twofold. One is very much linked to, personal ambition and how I want to spend my life and time. And then the second is very much related to the problem itself. So I did a lot of soul searching in my 20s about, what are we here for and why, and how do I want to spend my life? And I realized that I really wanted to start businesses with social impact. And I saw actually after working in mostly government that if you could combine profit incentive and social impact, that can be a really quick way to affect change, whereas government and NGOs can be a little bit slower in the way that they move. And so I was really motivated to think of ideas where you can combine social impact and profit, basically. And in parallel to that sort of thinking was my own journey in relation to sexuality. I got a few years into a long-term relationship, recognized that sex just wasn't as great anymore, and we had no idea what was normal. We had no idea how to talk about it. And so I did the only thing I knew how to do at that point, which was pick up a book. And I read a book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, which really opened my mind and eyes to different ways of thinking about and experiencing sex and my relationship to my own sexuality. And so that started a multi-year journey for me of exploration in terms of books and courses and speaking to people a lot more openly. And through that journey, I realized firstly that yes, there is so much we can do that affects the quality of our experience and our own relationship to ourselves in relation to sex and intimacy. But secondly, and really importantly, that the world sets us up to fail in relation to sex and intimacy. Everything in our context and our culture really makes it difficult for us to create our best sex lives. And for concrete examples, I'm talking about things like porn, patriarchal narratives around how our bodies should work, unrealistic expectations that are fed to us through the media, a lack of education. And so as a result of that, most of us are actually really suffering. So I saw this incredibly big opportunity.
You froze again.
Oh, I was like, yeah.
So it seems to me that you were able to find solutions at a very early age in your life. A lot of women get into relationships, they get married, and once they're there, they actually feel quite stuck. They don't know how to talk to their partners. They don't know what they need personally, because it starts with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And understanding your own body and how you get satisfaction so you can transfer that to someone else. What exactly does this app do? Give me a few pointers to how people can learn more about themselves using your platform.
Yeah, so essentially we provide the sort of sex positive, pleasure centric sex ed that you should have received and never did. And then we combine that with a normalizing community. So you can actually, through polls and discussion forums, understand other people's experiences, and it normalizes your own and also exposes you to a range of different experiences that we don't usually get access to because we're not openly talking in a vulnerable way about sex.
Yes.
And then the third part of our modality or method is exercises. So we have guided exercises ranging from, say, a written exercise about sharing fantasies or dirty talk vocabulary, to guided self-pleasure, to simply guided meditations to allow you to experience pleasure in any way, because that's something that can be quite difficult for us to allow ourselves to do, to guided partner activities that you can do together with a partner to spice things up or bring some novelty in.
Wow. Absolutely fascinating. And so what has been the reaction, the response from the marketplace since you launched?
Really positive, actually. So we initially launched with a sort of 1.0 product in November 2019. And what we see is that there is really definitely demand for this and there is willingness to pay. So We have over 350,000 users now,
Wow.
and a significant number of paying subscribers as well. So you can experience the app as a free version with limited content, or you pay to get access to the full experience.
Wow. That is just fantastic. And is it only available in Australia? Is it in other parts of the world? How far?
No, it's available globally. So the team is based in the US, and I usually am too. COVID, we're all over the place. So majority of our users are in the US, but we have users globally. So if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, you can download it from the respective stores.
Okay. So as a young entrepreneur in tech,
Yes.
if you look back at your career to get to the point where you are now, and if you could have a conversation with the younger you when you were setting out on this journey,
Yeah.
what nuggets of wisdom would you tell that young woman?
Chill out. Just like, it's going to be fine. No, I think and maybe this is part of why I'm an entrepreneur, right? Is like, I haven't really ever bowed to pressures of just doing what society expects me to do. So I think the one thing I would say to myself is, like, don't feel as anxious about that. I think when I was younger, I was still like, not doing what I was meant to do, but I felt anxious about the fact that I wasn't doing what I was meant to do. Whereas now I'm like so grateful that I haven't followed a conventional path.
That is fantastic. And it makes such a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing, it's interesting because I see some of my peers struggle with a similar thing of like wanting to spend their time in the way that is self-actualizing, right? So deriving purpose from work. And that's what I've really strived to do and managed to create a sustainable path to doing that. And so I'm super like encouraging and positive for it, but I also realize that that's such a privilege that some people might not be able to afford. So I'm always quite hesitant to actually give advice on this stuff because it's so personal and dependent on so many things.
But at least you're setting an example of what's possible.
Yeah.
You might not have to articulate it in words, but people are watching you, they're seeing what you're doing, and you become the path that somebody else can follow.
Right. And I have to say that particularly in relation to venture capital funding is one thing that beyond my actual work, I find very rewarding. So we've raised publicly over $3 million from investors, and hopefully we'll raise significantly more this year or early next year. So we'll see how that goes. But, I speak quite publicly about the difficulties in fundraising as a minority female entrepreneur, let alone in the sexuality space. And I recognize that it's just going to be harder for me as a woman, and it's just going to be less lucrative for me as a woman because my company won't be valued as high, and I will have to take less money than, a male entrepreneur with exactly the same business.
Yeah.
But I hope that paves a path for future women.
Yes, yes. So have you managed to do that mostly in Australia, or was the move to the United States a part of your strategy?
It was all the US. So I moved to the US about 3 or 4 years before I started Coral because I was fascinated by technology and how it was changing our world and how much it was, at the time that I was thinking about it, so sort of 2012, 13, this was about when e-commerce was becoming way more popular. Social media was starting to take off in terms of really dominating our mobile experience. Smartphone adoption was much more prevalent. And it was really impacting, like Uber was starting to become much more widespread. It was really impacting the way that we behaved in our day-to-day life.
Yes.
And so I was just following that curiosity. I didn't know that I would end up where I am. That was not like a long-term
goal or a mission. Yeah. But you followed your promptings, you followed your instinct. A lot of people will kind of sense it and they don't trust themselves and they hold back. But you stepped into the abyss and now you're reaping the rewards of that. Absolutely fascinating. So if you were to give advice to someone else who wants to go into the tech space, someone like me, for instance, I'm trying to build an app based on the HerStory model, all around diversity and inclusion. I have no idea what I'm doing. What advice would you give somebody who is not in that world?
Well, okay. Gosh. Well, it depends what you want to do. Like if you're interested in a career in technology, it's very different to being a technology entrepreneur, right? So it's like if you're just interested in getting to know, like learning how to be a developer or learning how to be a product manager or something like that, it's a very different set of advice to like, I want to start my own tech company. With tech companies, either you need to have a fair amount of capital yourself to develop the product, or you need to be able to convince someone else to give you a lot of money to develop the product. I'm not from a wealthy background at all, so I had to convince other people to give me money. And so really understanding the dynamics of that market environment is the first step to being able to actualize your vision. So, you know, venture capital investors are not going to back a business that they can't see going to $1 billion valuation, right? So that's the first step. And then they need to be convinced that you're the person to do it. And so there's quite a lot in that to unpack. But building technology is way harder than I thought it was. I don't know. I mean, if I had known then what I know now, like I might not have actually had the confidence to go for it. So I'm kind of glad that I was blissfully ignorant. But
I love that.
Yeah, it's really hard.
That was a blessing.
It was.
Fascinating.
Technology is way harder than you think it is.
Have so inspired me. My very first career was in technology. I was a first generation coder.
Oh, cool.
I computers and BASIC, Pascal, and Fortran back in the day. Hated my job. I hated being a coder. I ended up in systems analysis and design. And I have built businesses that are based on building databases my whole career ever since. So
I can see how that framework of thinking would be super helpful as you're thinking about a business.
Yes. Yeah. So it's been such a pleasure connecting with you today. You are really an inspiration.
I really appreciate that.
What is possible. And I just love the fact that you didn't know how hard it was going to be and you went anyway. Because I think if you had had too much knowledge, you wouldn't have ventured that far, right?
Yeah, I think and again, particularly as women, we deal with a lot of like imposter syndrome and confidence and all that sort of thing. And I think my sense of belief in my own ability might have been less if I'd known how hard it was going to be.
I love it.
But I'm here. So, you know, that wouldn't have been the right thing to think anyway.
Thank you so much for this amazing interview. And thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been a phenomenal week in my life. I have met women from all over the world, different genres, different careers. Tune in again tomorrow when I come back with yet another fascinating lady from a different part of the world. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge with us today.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you. And thanks for watching.
Thank you. Wonderful. Yet another amazing woman.
Exciting.
Very, very exciting.
It's so exciting.
What's exciting for me, Selena, is as I am kind of going back into the tech world, I'm meeting more women who are also in the same space.
Yeah.
And they're so open and willing to sharing their ideas, their knowledge. And it really helped me refine the app
What
that
you
I was
do.
developing and working on. So we won that competition.
Mm.
What other feedback do you have? What's fascinating is the genre she's working in. People don't talk about sex. Women don't know what they need. And
They
she's,
know what they need, but they are not allowed to say. If
or they
they
don't know
say,
how to say.
they are not allowed to say. Otherwise, if they say anything, they are prostitutes.
Oh
How did they
gosh.
how did they know about it? Who told them? So it's
Especially
like,
from our culture, it's a big problem.
no, but
It,
I mean, I'll talk to you about it when off recording. Some of the things which I know why people get to, like to change who they are.
yes,
And so it's really something else which, like, if people understand, if people sit down and say, okay, ask you, Getty, what do you want? What do you need? How can I satisfy you? Then you are in control. You know as well, and say, okay, no, can you do it this way? And somebody responds, accept, and allows that. Then you are
yes,
working together. But if it's a matter of saying, okay, you are just, like a vehicle, I'll drive you, then it doesn't work.
it doesn't work. You're right. You're so
You
right.
just say, like my sister-in-law said, I can do some crocheting when somebody is just busy there. And when they finish, I said, "Oh, when are you going to finish, bastard?" It's like, okay. Because it's like he doesn't care about you, he cares about himself.
Oh gosh, so
Mm.
much to be learned.
So much. I mean,
So,
I did one of the lessons in what she's teaching, and I loved that subject. I've got all the notes and about it. And some of the things like that, I want to be that. I want to be a sex, like the coach. It's really
um,
exciting.
that's awesome.
Mm.
That's awesome. So our next presenters are an unusual pair. It is a mother and daughter
Oh, yeah.
team. They are coming to us from the United States. The focus is on the daughter. Her name is Leah Keith. And Leah has won the Allen Ginsberg Award for Outstanding Poetry
Mm.
through the VSA of for 3 times in a row. She
Wow.
was chosen to represent them as their poet laureate for the past 3 years.
Mm.
So she's been given themes to write about and read her poems at certain events,
Mm.
such as the celebration of the 25th anniversary of Americans with Disabilities Act at Pawtucket, Rhode Island Town Hall.
Mm.
So she has a voice that she knows and she wants to use to bring an awareness to her unique gifts. So we will share the video. It is a mother and daughter team.
Okay.
Leah has Down syndrome, but has managed to do so much with her life in the arts,
Mm.
and with her mother's support, has lived a full life despite her disability.
That's
So we'll come
wonderful.
back and discuss the video after.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Gertrude.
I am Leah Keith.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
And where do you live?
I live in Warren,
Warren, Rhode Island,
Rhode
USA.
Island. Yeah, USA.
And I'm Leah's mother, Debbie Corey. And I'm 60 years old this year. I can't believe it. And I live with Leah. We live together in Warren, Rhode Island, United States.
Wonderful to meet both of you. So where does your story begin?
Where does our story begin, Leah?
Well, I have a studio in Carlin Mills.
You have
in
a
Warren
studio. So ever since Leah was very, very small,
Yeah.
she always had dreams to be an artist and a writer.
Yeah, like I also, you know, fill these pages with, you know, letters and stuff.
It's true. I mean, once she could write, she just started literally writing pages and pages of letters. And
Yeah.
there was like stacks of them because she would do it day and night. And eventually I realized that even though the words didn't have the breaks between them, they were actual stories that she was writing. And it was pretty amazing. She was using like inventive spelling. So she was sounding it out in her head.
Yeah. It was kind of like stories in my head.
Yes. And Leah has an amazing gift because she will create a piece of art by just like going into a meditation space, and she'll paint, and she just completely.
This is me. I'll also stare at the canvas, and I start painting and painting and painting.
And then when she's done, spontaneously, this beautiful poem will just come through her. And it's so fast that she has a friend named Steve who writes it down for her as she speaks it.
Yeah.
And she has created like thousands of paintings and poems, and they're really profound. And Leah and I enjoy her so much because we have these really deep conversations.
Yeah, and I always been that way too.
Yeah, she's very, very perceptive, intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
has a deep understanding of life and people.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that Leah taught me early on was that she is who she is, and she's so strong and confident in herself that.
Yeah, I'm also a teacher too.
Yes, you are a teacher, but she was not going to allow anyone to tell her how to dress or how to speak or how to be. And she's always compassionate and kind and polite and caring, but she is herself. And she has her own style. And she has showed me that, she teaches me, really. She's taught me
They do
to believe
say
in
that
her, to believe in myself.
Our children are our teachers, right? And just before we were catching up and getting to know each other, you told me that Leah has a saying. Tell the world what that is, Leah.
Say the saying.
I'm
I am different.
Different is good, but it's also a calling too.
It's a calling. And what does that mean, Leah?
Well, a calling is kind of like this is a calling is like a piece.
A piece.
A piece of life and what it is.
A piece of life and what life is?
Yeah.
And it's a calling to you to
do all these amazing things.
Yeah, and to live your best life, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, Leah, because a lot of people go to their graves not even knowing what their calling is. It's like you just know why you're on the planet, right? You're here to create through your words and your poetry and your paintings.
Yeah.
She's always known. That's what's so amazing, and nothing blocked it.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? She's been so authentic and true to who she is.
Yeah, and I have amazing relatives too. That's also writers too.
Also,
she
family.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's in her heritage, and she's always been fascinated with genetics and her heritage. And she looked into it, and she found out that a couple hundred years ago, there was a man named Hezekiah Butterworth that is her great uncle, and he wrote the Zigzag Journeys, which is a series of books about his travels in the world. And we actually, where we live right now, was his land. And we didn't even know that when we moved here. And there's actually, in this area, there's several historical cemeteries, and they're all her ancestors.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
Yeah, it's really.
Yeah, and that's on my dad's side of the family too.
So we go to the cemeteries, and Leah does like the gravestone etching.
Yeah. I do rubbings.
Yeah, because she's always searching for her history and her heritage, and she, when she found out that she had this history, it was amazing because she already had that inside of her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and kind of like being like a warrior too.
yes, she's always talked about being a warrior.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Like, what does that mean, warrior?
I don't know. Like I think a warrior is kind of like being strong, being brave.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
And you had
that.
to be strong and brave and independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you know, differences. Why should we celebrate our differences in the world?
That's a great question.
Yes, it is.
Do you want to answer that, or you want me to?
I think I think different is different, and that's just what it is.
And why are we happy and celebrating the differences? What's good about being different? You say it's good. Why is it good? I think that when we have differences and we honor them, we have something to share and give to each other.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And we can learn from each other. And it makes the world colorful and dynamic and exciting, rather than, I mean, how boring would it be if we were all the same? Why would we even do anything, you know?
But, you know, with Leah being an artist, imagine if the world was just in black and white, just two colors. And I've seen your art. The combination of colors is absolutely delicious. And I think that's what human beings are like as well.
Yeah.
God created us different for a reason.
How sad for people.
Celebrated.
How sad for people that are so afraid of differences that they live in a small little
world
bubble and never get to experience the full color of life. You know, culture, and I love food, you know, and I love to learn about ethnic food and create different food and eat the food, and especially when you're eating it with friends and family. And
she has her own garden too, so
I grow a lot of
vegetables.
Yeah, I love to garden. I love to grow food.
And I help her out.
She's a really good cook, actually. She's the most creative cook, and she's always been that way. She discovered that if you put cumin in meatballs, they're just delicious. I never would have thought of that. But
well, I just make them up. I just make up recipes. Like I do get like recipe stuff, like cookbooks or whatever, but I also create it itself and expand and make up stuff too.
Yeah, you add your own spices. She has her own little kitchen, and
I do.
She has a lot of spice. She loves spices.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love it. So, Leah, explain to me your creative process when you are creating a piece of art and you've got a blank canvas. How do you know where to start? How do you know what color is going to work with the next color? Tell me your creative process when you're creating all of these pieces of art.
Well, I just take a canvas, I put on my easel there, and I take like a nice fresh paint, my paintbrush, I dip it into the paint, and and then it just creates itself.
Yeah, it creates itself.
Yeah,
and
like me as an artist, that just the brush, but it's mostly just comes out of me. But sometimes it's kind of like a meditation kind of thing too.
Yeah, she really gets into this great focus. She's so focused when she's doing it, and it's quite beautiful to watch, really.
Yeah, like I have like all these thoughts in my head, and I just, especially at nighttime too, and so I just create.
Wow, what a gift! What a gift you have. And they say that the richest places in the world are graveyards because they're full of people who had so many ideas, so many things in their heads, and they didn't even have the courage to put it on a piece of paper. And you get to do that every single day and inspire people with your words, with your art, with your poetry. You are a gift to the world, the both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And you too.
Oh man, you know, it's been so fascinating when I sit here in my lounge in Wellington and I am connecting with women from every corner of the globe. Every single day, I just sit on the couch. I'm talking to someone in Japan, the next time in the US, the next day it's Canada.
Isn't it amazing? It's so beautiful. I mean, as bad and awful as the pandemic was, it did open up other possibilities, especially for us.
Yeah.
You know, Leah is known in our area, very well known because of her book and her art studio. And so the school department actually came to Leah. They called her and asked.
Yeah, I have a friend. Her name is Rachel. And she asked me to help her out with the teaching. So I teach art and writing.
Yeah, and she's teaching special ed students, and right now they're not in the regular school population because of their fragile health and the pandemic. So, and I know it's better in New Zealand, believe me, but here we were, you know, we've been in our house for a year. We're vaccinated now, so we're just getting out. But because of that, you know, the schools had to be like more open to things. So they hired Leah, and Leah has such an understanding of her students because she really like some of them are nonverbal, but Leah knows, like if they're upset, she knows what's bothering them.
Yeah, like there is one kid that has sensory issues, right? And I understand that too because I kind of have it too a little bit.
She knew that he wouldn't touch the paint or the paintbrush, and she said to me,
Go ahead.
Okay. She said, I know he has sensory issues because I do too. And she said, what if we put the paint in a squirt gun? And then he could paint with a squirt gun and you wouldn't have to touch. And he loved it.
But we did it with a spray bottle, actually.
Yeah, well, you don't want to bring, you know, any kind of gun into school, you know.
No,
even a water gun. And, you know, so we did modify that a bit. But yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so you kind of bring everything about yourself into the classroom. You understand these kids, you understand their challenges because you've lived it, you've breathed it, and here you are now teaching and empowering kids. Absolutely.
Yeah, they really look up to her.
Yeah.
They really are excited about her. It's
and Leah, let me ask you something about your mother. You know, your mom's got to be a pretty special woman.
Yeah, my mom really is special. I love her. She's great. I think she's amazing in what she does.
Thank you.
And she saw your potential. She saw your gifts way before anybody else ever saw it. And she just seems to have told you can do anything. And here you are.
Yeah. And here I am. I'm doing it. And that's because of my mom.
Oh,
well, I'm proud.
Oh, thank you. I have to say that Leah has thanked me, and she said to me, you know, Mom, I appreciate that you've pushed me because I am who I am.
Yeah.
But I mean, Leah's gifts are inside of her. I just allowed her to
be who she is.
Yeah, gave her the opportunity and really strongly advocated for her. So, you know, in school and
because I used to have a hard time reading too.
Yes, the schools, you know, sometimes they didn't think that she would be able to do something and they didn't teach her. So I had to get her a tutor to teach her how to read.
Yeah.
So, and she's reading great.
Yeah.
That's just so wonderful. Well, the two of you have so inspired me today. You know, one of the things I'm trying to do with this platform is to bring people who are different. People from all walks of life, and you have just painted a brush on my canvas that has just filled my soul today. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
You're welcome.
You are so welcome.
I really feel that we didn't bump into each other by accident. that there's some more magical things coming. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why, but magic is on its way. So we will keep in
I
touch.
feel it.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel it too.
Feel it
Thank you.
too. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. I told you the HerStory platform is unique. We are getting women from every single country under the globe, different abilities. The other day I was interviewing a musician from Pittsburgh and she sang a song for us. Today we have Leah. She's an artist. She's an author. Really, really feeling blessed today, and you have filled my cup. So have a fantastic day, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Tune in again tomorrow when I bring yet another amazing, maybe mother-daughter team. It could be another woman. I don't know. But have a fantastic evening, day, morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. Wow, there we have it. Very interesting team, those two. For this mother to have a child with a disability and
That's
help her throughout her
amazing.
life, not to see it as a challenge, is just exquisite.
Mm.
Absolutely exquisite.
Wow.
Now she's a teacher, she's helping other children with special needs. This job has really showed me some amazing people in the world, Selena. What was your take on that presentation?
You know, it reminded me of my niece. I've got a niece who is like that, who lives in Bizo. Is it Bizo in Kwekwe?
Okay.
And I think she just didn't have, you know, the mother to build her up to support her. But she's so intelligent. She's the cleanest girl I've never ever known. She's, you know, they're very intelligent.
Yeah.
And you know, because of the mother who is there to support her, to really say, yes, you can do it. So she's just amazing. And you know, just to have your own kitchen and
Yes.
say, I can, you know, I want to try this, I want to try. Then she goes to mommy and then become a teacher. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Wow.
Very, very able-bodied, fantastic young woman.
Ah,
And
she's amazing. Honestly.
it's inspiring to see a parent who does not go by the diagnosis she's given for her child.
That's exactly. Wow.
Yeah. She decided that despite the challenges her daughter had, she would have a full and healthy life.
Exactly. She will
Yeah.
become whoever she wants to be.
So true.
Hmm.
So many
Good
amazing
for that one.
stories, Selena. So many amazing stories we've had today. So
Wow.
we move on to our next speaker, who is coming to us, I think, from Hawaii. Daniela Hu, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, is the founder of the Wonder Lover. This is she's an online business coach for creative and early stage entrepreneurs. She's had an interesting journey and would love to have herself, you know, on our platform. She graduated from an Ivy League university and had a prestigious job with a big bank in New York when she realized that the corporate world was just not for her. Since making a change and creating her online business, she has visited 60 countries
Wow.
and worked with tourism boards and travel brands around the world. And her mission was to enable travel and freedom through entrepreneurship. By using her own experiences, she was able to coach ambitious clients from all around the world to build their online presence, monetize their passions, and take action towards living the life of their dreams. So thank you so much, Danielle. I will share your video with, your website with the video as well, so that people can get hold of you. But thank you for gracing us with your presence virtually by sharing this video with us. We will then come back and discuss her presentation soon.
Thank you.
and thank you so much for having me on the show. My name is Danielle Hu. I am 27 years old, and I'm originally from New York, but I am currently in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Wow, now that's exotic. I was just saying earlier when we connected, one of the fascinating things about this job is I feel like I'm traveling every single day because I meet women from different parts of the world. Tell us where your story begins.
So, my story begins in actually corporate finance in New York City. And prior to that, I had studied abroad a few times in Italy and Hong Kong. And I feel like when you travel and go outside of what you know, there are things in life, things that you don't know, and things you don't know. And when you travel and go outside of your current bubble, you your perspective expands. And so when I went back to that corporate world, I felt like I didn't belong. I was like, is this all there is? Can I really just go the rest of my life working every day, having 10 vacation days a year, and just staying in this cubicle? And so that was when I was like 20, 22. And I just started questioning, like, why is everyone else okay with this? Like, what is wrong with me? And started having doubts. But after building my Instagram page, creating my online presence, reaching out to other entrepreneurs, I started finding a community of other people who were nomadic, who were entrepreneurial, who had such a huge impact on my life and lives around the world. And I decided to work during my lunch breaks and after work and start creating my own businesses. I still
awesome.
feel uncomfortable sharing that now because I'm like, well, my previous employer got mad at me. Like, are they listening? But yeah, I was working outside of work and networking and connecting with like-minded entrepreneurs. And 4 years ago, I quit my job and I have been traveling and working and coaching ever since.
You have been to 60 countries. Where haven't you been on the planet? What is the next country you're going to visit?
Well, after COVID, I'm hoping a lot of places open up, but I would love, love, love to travel. I've only been to Morocco and South Africa, but to travel Central Africa. I feel like I've only touched the tip of the iceberg, and I've met people last year. They were cycling down the east. And I was like, that is fascinating and so incredible. And yeah.
Now, you met your soulmate by the sound of it throughout the travel. So you didn't have to make a choice in the end to either stay in one place. You found a fellow nomad. Tell us about your partner. How did you guys meet? I love romantic stories.
Yeah, so it was funny because after I had quit, my parents are very traditional. They grew up in China. I was born in Beijing, but they immigrated when I was 2. So still a lot of traditional values. And we had multiple conversations where she sat me down. She was like, look, I love you so much. And you really need to settle. You can't just travel. And you either need to choose between traveling or finding a partner. And I was like, no, I can find both. Like, there's no compromises in life. And so 2 years ago, when I was living in Bali, I matched with my current boyfriend on Tinder.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, and he was working a day job. He was on a surf trip in Bali and we hit it off. I honestly thought I might never see him again, but a few weeks later, I was back in England visiting him. And after a few months of just exchanging ideas and thoughts and values, he was like, you know what? I'm going to pursue creativity online full time and quit my day job. And so we've just been traveling ever since, and I didn't have to compromise.
Wow, that is just beautiful. Beautiful. And the thing is, you knew exactly what you wanted in life. You know, a lot of women will hold back. They think they have to either choose one or the other. I remember reading a book called Refuse to Choose when I was creating my first business. I had 3 little children under 12. I quit my IT job and became an entrepreneur. And everybody kept saying to me, oh, you have to wait until the children grow up. You've got to wait until this. And I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. And like you, I've been to 52 countries, not 60. So I'm going to have to compete with you. But this world is beautiful, right? You know, a lot of people are so fearful of travel. Have you had any bad experiences along the way?
I have. And I think they mostly happened when I was younger and more naive.
Yes.
And I think those experiences really taught me about the world, and how to interact, and basically what, like, you know, I come from a very suburban bubble. And so I learned the hard way that the whole world isn't like that. And so the first experience I can remember was I stayed at a hostel and I left my phone charging with like my credit cards in the back in my room while I went to go get lunch. And then when I came back, my phone was like unplugged, there was water on it. And I learned at the end of my trip that someone had like swiped my debit card and tried to. And so looking back, that was just so naive of me. But experiences like those really teach you how to travel safely.
Yes. That's interesting. I would have to say that I had two weird travel experiences. I came out unscathed in both. One of them, I went to Mexico. I was living in Albuquerque. My visa was about to expire, so I thought I'll just get in my car and drive to the nearest border and exit the US and come back in. And I drove to Juarez, the most notorious border post in the world. Had a little bit of an experience there. And my second bad travel experience was in Dallas, Texas, where I walked into a white supremacist head office by mistake. Yes.
Oh my gosh. By mistake.
But I live to tell these tales and laugh about them. Yeah. So life really is wonderful. Okay, so tell me something about your current profession. What you actually do now, how you survive financially online, and what that looks like, because I know a lot of my my listeners are looking for alternative ways of making a living without being stuck at home. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I was still working in finance, I knew I had wanted to create a separate income. So I actually started like multiple business ventures. I was drop shipping. I had an online business that I was sourcing from China. I tried Amazon FBA. I started blogging, and you just learn so much by doing. And after my Instagram just started growing and growing, and I realized that I could work on Instagram and content creation and pursue creativity full time. For the past few years, I was mainly known as a travel influencer. But then lo and behold, COVID hit.
Yes.
And I realized, I was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable promoting travel during this time. And that's when I learned my next life lesson, which is it's okay to pivot. You don't need to stay with one trajectory forever, and it's always going to benefit you if you learn something new. And so I was like, well, I've been doing social media consulting like on the side. Why not build on this aspect of the Wander Lover and start to grow my coaching and consulting business? Because don't listen to other people. Don't let other people's words discourage you, especially if they're not where you want to be. So if I wanted to be an executive at a bank, like I would probably listen to them, but I didn't. So I shouldn't have really thought about their advice as much as I did. Going off of that, I would definitely say find your tribe and find your community of the people who do support you, because just because they're not around you doesn't mean they're not out there.
Yeah.
And so I always encourage people, if you resonate with my story, if you like admire, even like you have that inkling, like, that's interesting, really lean into that. And my DMs are always open. So if you want to have a conversation, like I'm happy to support you, but your community is out there. And then last but not least, I would say just try it. Like, no idea is too crazy. And that is the beauty of creativity, because essentially you're bringing into this world something that's not already there.
Yes.
So instead of looking at it as like, oh, that hasn't been done before, or that's not possible, start asking, how can I make this possible? Like, how can I do this?
I absolutely love that. So to end our interview, let's jump into the future. The future you at the age of 100, sitting in your rocking chair with your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. Based on how you're living your life, if you could have a conversation with the future you, what would you say to her? This fascinating woman who's gone to every corner of the globe.
I would say your mission of enabling travel and freedom through entrepreneurship, I want that to be trickled down in all corners. So my best friend and I were actually starting a jewelry brand centered around empowering women through stepping outside their comfort zones. Like, we both grew up in very conservative Asian American families who really valued stability, and we both like quit our jobs and pursued creativity. And just with different businesses and realizing your full potential, you have the power to impact other people, like even listeners on this podcast. Like, your impact goes far beyond what is directly in front of you. Exactly.
I love that. Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, with this amazing story this morning. I was so excited when I saw your profile. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is somebody from my tribe. I get to meet someone as crazy as me, but you're crazier than I am. So
you inspire me, and thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so that was the beautiful Daniela sharing her amazing story, her travels around the world. I must say I was very inspired.
Yeah, she's quite inspiring.
She's been all over the world and been to more countries than me, so I was a little bit jealous about that as well. Well, I would love to catch up with her, though, and find out how she's managed to pivot, especially during this COVID time.
Oh, this one, she needs to sleep, this one.
You need to put her to bed. It's late there now.
She can't sleep without the lights off anyway.
Oh, shame. But
yeah,
that was amazing.
She's quite a traveler, but I love this free spirit. You know, just a sense of, I mean, I know I used to be like that. I mean, one of my brothers used to call me Vasco da Gama.
Because you love to travel as well.
I did. I mean, and like now, I haven't traveled much, but I would love to take that up again when it opens.
When the world opens up, you're right. It will be a while before that happens.
But I mean, I could travel around in my bedroom.
I'm actually going back to all of my photographs. You know how Facebook sends you the reminders? Yeah, I go back to all my photos and look at all of my travel stories as well. So let's introduce our next speaker. Deborah Levison is a multi-award-winning author. Her debut book is called The Crate, and it's a story of war, murder, and justice, which has been described as heart-wrenching and poetic. It's a brilliant story. It's a story about two women, herself as a child of a Holocaust survivor, narrating the story, and the story of a murdered and dismembered victim of domestic violence. The Crate is about a gruesome crime in 2010 when they discovered a crate nailed tightly shut and hidden beneath their home in their lake house in Canada. So, thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing your book with the world and sharing the story. I know you can't join us today, but we will play your video, and what an intriguing tale it is as well.
So I am Deborah Levison, and I don't know if I'm all that young. I'm 56 years old, but I'm actually in Trumbull, Connecticut in the USA, which is a little town about an hour outside of New York City, not too far from the water. And not the place where I grew up. I actually grew up in Toronto, Canada, and ended up landing in this little town. Ironically, never thought I would end up spending so many years here, but here I am. So dual citizen, Canadian and American, and a lifelong writer. Ever since college, I've been a professional journalist. I've been a ghostwriter, freelance writer, and publicist, and still have always had the lifelong dream of being an author. You know, when I was little, I spent a lot of time in my little local village library. And summers, especially rainy days, sort of roaming the dusty shelves and always wishing that I had a book of my own on the shelf. Maybe it was a matter of not being able to do other things. I mean, I certainly couldn't do anything math related, but I always wanted to be a storyteller, and I always wished I had a book of my own. The thing was, I wasn't sure what to write about. And sort of in my teens and early 20s, I was just into very fluffy contemporary fiction. And so I thought, okay, that might be the way to start. And then it wasn't until 2010 when something happened to my family that actually set me on the path of writing my debut book. And I'll just show you a copy. This is The Crate, my debut nonfiction true crime story. And here it is in audio. And this is not a book I ever expected to write, because in 2010, it started with a phone call. I'd already been living here in Connecticut. My brother called from Canada to say that he had discovered a wooden crate. It was nailed very tightly shut. It was shoved underneath our family's lake house north of Toronto in this very pristine, very beautifully wooded region of Canada called Muskoka. And when that crate was opened, the contents were just horrifying. It was absolutely the most awful thing you could ever imagine. And so the contents, this discovery, it just rocked my family. I had 3 young children that I felt I had to protect from the violence of this whole situation. My husband and I were completely freaked out. My brother became a murder suspect. And of course, the story was carried coast to coast in all the media. It was in all the headlines, it was on television and on the covers of magazines. And the worst part was that my parents, who were elderly at the time, they were traumatized, because the violence of this whole situation, the evil of the situation, it dredged up all their memories of having survived the Holocaust. My parents, both Holocaust survivors, both, you know, went through the most horrific experiences in the Second World War, concentration camps, death marches, cattle cars, starvation, losing all of their families. And you know, when they came to North America as refugees in 1956, they thought they left the violence behind in Europe. They thought they were coming to a place of calm and innocence where they could forget the horrible memories, and it was a place of refuge. And especially this lake house of ours, which they built by hand in the 1970s. This place, our cottage, it represented sanctuary for them. And so the crime that we discovered in 2010, which was fresh, by the way, I'm not talking about an old crime. We're not talking about bones here. This crime, it defiled their sanctuary. And so it really traumatized them and the rest of us. And I have to tell you, I'm embarrassed to say that for the first few days after this discovery, you know, I was really trapped in my own head in terms of, you know, how does this crime affect us? How does it affect me and my immediate family? And it wasn't until there was an autopsy and an autopsy report that showed that the victim in the crate was a young woman, a young mother, that I started thinking in terms of, okay, wait a minute, you know, there's an actual victim here who has a family, who has loved ones who are, you know, certainly grieving and just traumatized beyond anything we're feeling. And so I started thinking in terms of the victim and thinking that maybe I could give her a voice, because clearly she no longer had one. And over time, over a few years after the discovery, it occurred to me that I could tell the story of what happened to the woman in the crate and give her a voice, because the media certainly wasn't doing anything to benefit her. It was really blaming the victim, which is pretty common. But I thought I could give her a voice. And in order for readers to understand the full context of what the discovery meant to my family, I would have to put it into the context of my parents' Holocaust experiences. So I took those two stories of the woman in the crate and my parents in the Holocaust and intertwined them in the narrative. So it's really evil in the past intersecting with evil in the present.
Wow. What an intriguing story. I can't wait to read this book now. Now, if you were to go back to the younger you when all of this was happening, I can imagine that your whole family was in turmoil with such a situation.
Absolutely.
And people get caught in situations like this, totally blindsided. You don't even see it coming.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Especially, you know, we live such an easy life. I like to say that we live in a bubble where you read about things like this happening, but it's always to somebody else. And as it turns out, I actually knew the murderer.
Wow.
A whole other dimension here, but again, you know, not someone who I ever would have suspected in a million years, someone who came across as perfectly nice and normal, you know, which is actually a theme of the book. You know, how do you know what people are like underneath that sort of normal veneer?
Surface, yes.
You don't know what your neighbors are capable of. You don't know what people can do. And it was the exact same situation for my parents back in Eastern Europe of the 1940s. They had no idea what their neighbors were capable of.
Wow. I don't know where to start. It's not every day that I am completely lost for words in a situation like this. I've never heard such an intriguing story or met somebody who's actually lived through such an intriguing story as well. And I think that the layers that you bring as an artist, as an author, is again going back to your background, your legacy story with your parents, and now weaving that all into the present moment in time. So as an artist, as an author, as a woman, what did you manage to do with all of that negative publicity? Because, you know, a lot of times we get stuck, we get caught up in the negative of what's going on. It sounds to me like you were able to transmute that in a very magical way.
Well, by negative publicity, I'm thinking you're talking about the coverage of the crime itself and
Yes.
the negative light in which they cast the victim. You know, I think all we can ever do in terms of combating any kind of media misconceptions is tell the truth.
Yeah.
That's all we have, you know, to combat any kind of twisting of the facts. We have to tell the truth. And so fortunately, I was able to get in touch with the victim's mother and sister, who actually figure quite prominently in the story. And they were able to tell me, you know, the real facts of the victim's life. And her name is Samantha, by the way,
Okay.
and a beautiful young woman who had 2 children. And so with their help, I was able to talk about who she really was, not, you know, not just defined by some of the more questionable choices she may have made, because we all make poor decisions sometimes. But instead of being defined by that alone, I was able to, you know, talk about her as a human in terms of her humanity, in terms of her being a daughter and a sister and a mother. And so that's the story that mattered, and the fact that she did not deserve what happened to her. And you know, this issue of domestic violence, which is what her story boils down to, is again something we need to be talking about. And maybe it's uncomfortable for the press to cover it, but that's what we need to be talking about.
Wow. Now, if you are going to look into your future as a writer, I'm pretty sure there's going to be many, many, many more books still to come. Where is your career going right now?
So, so having my first book out, having The Crate actually in bookstores and in libraries on a shelf, which is my dream. It just makes me want to keep going in that direction and do better. You know, I was very fortunate that The Crate had wonderful reviews and won a bunch of literary awards, which just makes me so happy.
Wow.
But more than that, what I love is hearing from readers that it resonates with them.
That's awesome. And do you
that
think
they
that
can
you
relate
will
to issues that I talk about?
Yes, that's what's going to be my question. Do you think you will continue writing, wrapping real life women's stories as part of your writing style? Because I think it's going to be really powerful.
So the answer is yes. I'm on my 3rd book, and
okay, I was right.
Well, interestingly though, my 2nd book is also based on real life stories, horrific stories, but they're not women's issues, they're men's issues, which I think is just as important to talk about when men are victimized. And it turns out that I was privy to a bunch of lawsuits, specifically about men, middle-aged men who came forward to talk about really horrible sexual abuse that they lived through in very elite, very prestigious private schools in New England. And of course, it's not limited to New England. This is a problem that is everywhere in the world, all over the US, Canada, and abroad. And I read through the complaints of these lawsuits, and Gertrude, you just would not believe what these people suffered. You would not believe the systematic abuse, where everybody was either in on the abuse or turned a blind eye, but
Mm.
nobody helped these boys who were vulnerable and trapped, and of course didn't have a voice to speak out because they were young and frightened and often blackmailed. And so I really felt that this was, again, an issue that had to be tackled. And if I wrote a book and even, you know, one person was sort of compelled to come forward and tell his own story, then it would be a success. So I wrote the book. It hasn't been published yet.
Okay.
My agent has it, is about to try to sell it to a publisher right now. So I
Right.
have my fingers crossed. But yeah.
Wow. Well, I am so happy I got to meet you. I think the power of storytelling brings an awareness and shines a light to issues we have in our societies. You got to tell the story of a young woman who couldn't tell her own story. There's so many people who are voiceless, one because they're dead and they never got to say it, and others who are just in countries and places where they don't have a platform.
Right.
So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Storytelling is powerful. It changes lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you are 100 years old and you're sitting in your rocking chair with your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, based on how you're using the power of the pen, and you could have a conversation with that future you, what would you say to her?
So I'd be happy I did the one thing, which is preserve my parents' stories as a legacy for my own children and for grandchildren and future generations. Because the Holocaust is a subject that is very, not just near and dear to my heart, but something that I've lived as a child of survivors. It's shaped my own identity much more than I ever knew as a child. But, we also have the issues of Holocaust denial and whitewashing history and the lack of Holocaust education in the school curriculums. I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but here in the USA, I think we only have 17 states that mandate Holocaust education. And even that isn't a set curriculum. There's quite a bit of leeway in terms of how teachers want to teach it or how much they spend teaching, how much time they spend teaching it. So there's a lot of work to be done in terms of education. But, to write my parents' stories down was, for one thing, it was a gift from me to them to preserve their stories in a way they couldn't do it themselves.
Yeah.
And then, I really wanted my children to know their grandparents' histories, their great-grandparents' histories. And, it was something that I spent my entire childhood questioning, where were my relatives? Why did I only have one grandmother when all my friends had aunts and uncles and cousins and 4 grandparents and I had none? There was so much confusion surrounding who we were as a family and so much, just so many questions because my parents never talked about what happened to them. They never.
I went to Auschwitz not last year, the year before. My husband is Polish. So we went on this tour and I remember standing in that concentration camp and thinking every human being on the planet needs to come and see what happened and experience it. And, just standing, it is sacred ground. Just standing there, you can feel it, you can absorb it. It's still with me. I still have never been able to shake off what I experienced there. And until we start sharing this kind of history, the atrocities of the past, it will happen again. And it will happen again. And that's why history is important. That's why we need to teach children so that they can be better human beings going forwards. And I can totally understand why your parents never talked about it, because that's not something you want to remember. My in-laws, I got the pleasure of meeting my mother-in-law before she died. She missed going to the gas chambers. She was 12 or 13. She was working for a Jewish family, and they wanted her to work on a Sunday. And she decided that because she was Catholic, she didn't want to do that. And they reported her to the Gestapo. And she was almost put in one of those trains, but was saved by another family. And she ended up working in a hospital. And she tells her story. And my father-in-law was 14, and he was actually put on the train to Germany. And the story is he cried so much on the way there. When he got to Germany, he looked like he was ill. His eyes were puffed up. They sent him back to Poland. So my husband exists, and both his parents missed Auschwitz. And yeah, so I'm kind of in that world. I got to see it. I got to talk to people who have survived it. And you're so right, we should not forget. And the school systems need to do more to educate. Fortunately, countries like New Zealand do have it on the curriculum. It's something that is studied. I studied it in Zimbabwe. I'm from Zimbabwe originally. In Africa, these things are talked about. And you look at the genocide that happened in Rwanda, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So we do need to talk about it, and we do need to educate the future generation.
Absolutely.
But thank you for your work. Thank you for the work that you're putting out into the world.
Thank you. Well, we do similar work, I think. We do what we can to combat hatred, to combat intolerance, to empower women, and to tell stories. Let the men do the fighting, let the men do the big ego jobs, and I think the women can just quietly make changes through stories and education and dialogue.
Very, very true. We do need an injection of feminine energy in the world right now.
Absolutely.
And we will all play our small little parts in conscientizing our sons, our children, so we create a better world going forwards. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Okay, yet another intriguing presenter. It's amazing how creative people can be when faced with challenges and adversity. Deborah's story is truly, truly inspirational. Very sad story. I'm glad she got to tell the story of the woman who was murdered. It would have been a very traumatic experience for her family. I can't imagine what that could have been like. What is your feedback, Selena?
I think she's so courageous because sometimes people could be afraid of being labeled, to say, why did you have to say that? Why did you have to write like that? Were you involved, or things? But then she just wanted to help, like say she wanted to be the voice of that other woman who was murdered. And so it's very inspiring to know that there are people around the world who care, who still want to wear other people's shoes. If I can just help this one woman, I will have done a lot. I don't know whether she's going to wake up or what, but at least other people will know and they will save themselves. I think she's wonderful. And just to think of writing a book about your parents, I mean, that's the second person, was it Madam Mary who wrote as well, who had that booklet about
Yes.
So it's
was
quite
able to preserve her parents' history for sure.
Yeah. So
now we will go into our last presenter for the day. Sandra J. Horton is known as a business and leadership consultant and trainer and facilitator. Over the last 25 years, She has helped sales with sales consulting, and she's experienced tremendous growth herself for her business and for her clients. She's a systems thinker, a problem solver, and a morale booster. And she says that I ignite individuals into action with results, which results in increased productivity and revenue. So, Sandra, it was awesome interviewing you. Thank you for sharing your story. We will share your video. We'll give you feedback at the end. And I love the fact that you talk about design your leadership story. How many times have we really thought about that? So thank you, Sandra. Here we go. Oops.
Well, thank you, Gertrude. My name is Sandra Horton. I am located in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I am 57, almost 58 years old, with lots of story behind me. So today I would like to share a little bit about what I call to design, own your leadership story.
Wow.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, wow, that is amazing. Not many of us even know we have a leadership story.
Right. It is true. And I think the most interesting learning for myself is that through my life's journey and my transformation during my master's in leadership program almost 7 years ago, I became very clear that I had a leadership story that I didn't own or really truly know until I awakened to my true truth of who I am as an individual.
And I guess that is the starting point. So what was the wake up moment for you?
It was a really innocent conversation. And I think sometimes in life we have those moments. And it was called an unresolved story. Innocent, truly innocent. And what happened is that I was ported into a place, a safe space, that guided by two amazing women, I felt safe enough to reveal my story that I was a sexual assault survivor at the age of 10 years old. In that awakening, I knew who it was, where it happened, obviously when, and my life became completely calm and I was at peace. But I had suppressed that for over 34 years. Powerful, powerful awakening.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess sometimes as a child, when you've had these traumatic experiences, it gets suppressed as a way to just survive what has happened, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I really do feel, because I, even up to that awakening, I was very much externally focused. I was very successful in my career. I was always driven to be a change agent. I'm an executive coach, courage catalyst, many names that I've been given throughout my time. But yes, it was that profound moment that everything just shifted and pivoted. And that's why I do what I do now.
Wow. Wow. So now you're helping other people to find that juice, that source.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a process? Is it a program? Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gertrude. So from this awakening, what I realized in the essence of individuals if we don't awaken to our inside, and look inside, and then pivot to look outside, we're not fully aware of our true leadership story. Who are we? What is our lens? Where do we come from? What are our limiting beliefs, our mental models, the patterns of, for my situation, I can only speak my truth from my heart center, was the patterns of victimization, codependency. So what I am now passionate about is helping particularly women leaders, women executives, women who want to take their leadership to that next level, but there's something missing. Maybe there's an element that lacks the self-confidence, the self-talk, the self-sabotaging ways may still be there, but it shows up in their leadership. So this is a way for them, it's a process, a roadmap to go back inside and arrive by answering specific questions that are unique to them, that they arrive at their own unique leadership style. And it's their leadership story that then they can take and achieve their daring goals for growth. Because that's what I did. And it's very powerful when you allow yourself to go inside and journey.
Now that must be very, very powerful, because now you're talking from a position of strength.
Yeah, correct.
Where what could have been a weakness that would define you is transmuted into your biggest strength. I love that. I love that. And it is, I know they say in Africa that we go through the challenges we go through so we can become teachers. My grandmother used to say that every single thing that happens in your life is part of your tools. So you can help and empower someone else. So if you were to go back to the younger you, to that little girl who had gone through this experience, or the younger woman who discovered that there was a point in time in your life where something happened, based on what life has taught you, what 3 pieces of advice would you give her?
That's a great question. Thank you, Gertrude. Because it was interesting. I just have to share, my daughter turned 21 today. So it's a beautiful, blessed day.
Happy birthday.
And it was interesting because we were chatting about that. I asked her, what have you learned through my own sharing of my story? And I would say to myself as well, I would say that words are very powerful. Challenge yourself to look at the words you use to describe yourself. Are there words that perhaps limit your potential? Where do those words come from? How do they influence you every day to attract, to manifest? Challenge your thoughts, challenge those thought process. Chris Argyris talks about the ladder of inference, where we take in information, we process it, we unconsciously start to then make assumptions based on our beliefs and our values. We then act and we respond, perhaps in an emotionally intelligent way or not. As an emotionally intelligent practitioner, I feel my greatest learning I would offer my younger self would be awaken to those overreactions emotionally, because they're anchored somewhere and there's a reason we can learn from them. That's a really powerful thing. I just got 2 more. I think that if it's fine with yourself, Gertrude.
Yes, sure.
That I would learn to lean and to lead yourself forward. Set your own intentions, set your goals, and learn to register on what I call our heart signals. Those are those inner workings, those inner signals, that intuition that gives you that bing, bing, bing moment that we're like, okay, what is happening for me right now? And as a younger woman, I may not have been as aware. And so doing emotional intelligence, I think, for any age is so critical, because we become aware of that in order to shift. And identify your core values. What is driving you and your behavior? Pay special attention to that. Is it kindness? Is it generosity, gratitude? What is it that makes you unique? And find ways to invite that into your world. And lastly, in being an authentic leader, in stepping into your own leadership story, to be authentic It's about relationships. It's not about power. So be open, be mindful, meditate daily, and invite new things into your life, because that will make you a very powerful, inside, beautiful being to be open to others, to learn and to grow. And I think those are really important keys that I would offer myself as a young girl back then, that I've shared with my daughter. And I'm seeing her thriving because she learned earlier on what's important within herself, so she can be of service, but also follow her dreams to reach her daring goals for growth.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. That is just absolutely beautiful. Some real nuggets that people can take away today. It's really important. And so your leadership philosophy, let's talk a little bit about that, so I can get inside your head and understand how you.
Okay. I love you, y'all. It's great. You're welcome. Come on in.
What is your leadership philosophy?
I have a very strong belief in that at all times we are leaders. We have to step into our own personal power. I firmly believe in transformational leadership, meaning that we all can lead by example. And that's going back into knowing your values, knowing your beliefs, knowing your thinking, and challenging yourself. The other thing that I would champion for my leadership would be being very open to others, being open to explore what other people feel, the thoughts, the impressions that you have on them. And I do apologize a little bit just with the emotions behind me. So I may have to go off video if I see my daughter go back and forth with her girlfriend. So my apologies for that.
That's okay.
But I do believe transformational leadership is the way forward, just knowing yourself and being that for everyone else.
That sounds amazing. So I know that you are speaking at the HerStory Online Summit. And
I'm so excited. Thank you, Gertrude.
We're excited to have you, but tell us what you will cover in your workshop so people get a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm just going to stop video for a moment.
Okay.
Are the way that we love Zoom and we love COVID. It's just a place.
We are mothers who have children who,
yes,
and we have dogs, we have cats. It's been really interesting doing these interviews.
You know what? It's I could share so many other stories. So, Gertrude, can you please reframe that question, because I got a little bit distracted. I do apologize, please.
No, it's fine. I said you're going to be running a workshop during the HerStory Summit. What will you cover? What is the title of your workshop?
So I'm very excited for this workshop. This workshop will cover and give women the opportunity to actually complete a process that helps them identify where they are actually at in their own leadership story. So it will be very exciting. You're going to walk away with some areas going, should I explore this? What does this mean to me? So it's very, very practical. And so I'm really excited to invite every woman who is wanting to know themselves, to step into their leadership, into their own personal power, to achieve their daring goals for growth. Because when we know ourselves intimately on that inside out, our leadership can grow.
I love that. We are so happy you are part of our community, Sandra.
Thank you, Gertrude. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow.
Take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, that was our last and final speaker, the wonderful Sandra, coming to us all the way from Canada. Thank you so much for reminding us about leadership and how to design your leadership story. Not something we think about a lot. I'll just share Sandra's website at the bottom of the screen there in case anybody would like to get in touch with her. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. It was yet another fascinating day with a group of amazing women sharing their stories from all over the world. We'll be back again tomorrow with yet another 10 amazing speakers. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And if you want to come onto our platform and share your story, please register. We're now planning our events for 2022, and we are going to have some amazing things happening as from next year. So if you are a woman who has a story in your heart that you feel needs to be shared, go onto our website, theherstorycircle.com/registration, register to speak, but we will see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.